Good morning and welcome to Rose Red Homestead, where today we are going to be testing 4 different thermal cookers. And that's kind of the same thing as slow cookers. These are all off-grid pieces of equipment. One I have made myself and the other 3 I have purchased, and we'll be getting into that in just a moment. This goes certainly toward both food security and emergency preparedness. If we ever have to live long-term in a grid-down situation, fuel is going to be paramount. And so in our cooking, we're going to want to look for ways that we can reduce our fuel consumption. And that is exactly what these thermal cookers do. So I've been planning this one for a really long time. I just needed to come up with the food that I was going to use in this experiment. The other day we posted a video on a Tuscan white bean soup. It is a dry mix and it uses our fast beans. Now we've done a video on how to do fast beans and I will link that to this video as well. But I have in this pot 8 quarts of navy beans that I have soaked overnight, so they're all swollen, they're ready, they're hydrated and ready to go into our process for this test. When we come back, I will show you the 4 things that we're going to do, and while we're gone, I am going to put this on the stove and get it to boiling for 10 minutes. Because when you use a slow cooker, what you want to have is you want the food to be boiling hot and have boiled for about 10 minutes. Now these beans, they're just soaked, they are not ready to eat, they're still hard. And so normally this would take about 2 hours on the stove to soften them enough to eat, and we want these fully cooked before we put them in the dehydrator and the freeze dryer to make our fast beans. So while we're gone, I'm going to get these boiling on the stove, and we'll be back to get started in just a moment. I'm going to show you now the 4 different pieces of equipment that we're going to use for these thermal cookers. This is a Zega. One of the things that I love about our community is that I know you all learn from our videos, for which we are very appreciative, but we learn so much from you all as well. And Deb Clyde was the one who pointed this out to me, originally said that she was very interested in what did I think about it. And as I investigated it, I decided to get one to try it out. It is called Zega the Intelligent Cooker. And the underside of the lid has a little heat probe right there. And the way this works is you put your food in here and then you put it on the stove on medium heat. And then this little dial moves, well, I don't know if you can see it, it's kind of jiggly right here. It moves up and up and up and up, and when it gets into the red, then you take it off the heat and let it sit. And that's what we're going to do. Now, the Zegas come in 2 models. One is an electronic model that connects to your phone, and it has all kinds of lovely recipes, very fancy, fancier than we usually eat. But you can also use your own recipes. And then it has this analog. This is not connected to my phone. I could use the same recipes in here if I wanted, and I've used this a couple of times. This will be a true test for it. This is a tough test to see if it will get beans all the way cooked that have been soaked all night. So I already have 2 quarts of beans in here. This one is going to be a little bit different. This one has to be done independent of how we're going to do the others. So while the other beans are already on the stove cooking, this one I have to start on its own. I won't be dipping into that main dish, that main pot, to get the beans out to put in here. This one has to start from this point. This is double walled and it is a very heavy bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one on the stove on medium heat, and then we'll come back to the others. I have my data book right here with a little chart already made so that I can record starting temperatures and ending temperatures after 4 hours. And I'll be timing things differently if necessary. This one, I will start the timing when I take it off the heat. Okay, so the others. This one we have shown before in a video on thermos cooking. This is a Stanley thermos, and 2 quarts of beans will fit in here. Then we put the lid on and snap it down, and that's all there is to it. This one will sit for 4 hours. Now, if I were actually doing this in a grid down situation, I would want to make sure that I could do everything to insulate that heated food on the inside. So I would definitely cover this one with a towel or a couple of beach towels or something to add to the insulation. I would probably do the same on the Zega as well. I'm not going to do that today because we just want to test to see what they can do naked. Okay, this one I've also shown before. This is a Wonder Bag. This is the cleverest thing. I learned about these, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. I bought one on Amazon. It is made by a group of women in Africa, and it is just this great big bag that has styrofoam beads in every one of these little pockets around. And so you put the pan in, you put the cover on the top, and then you bring this back over the top, pull it down hard, and then it thermal cooks beautifully. And so that's what we'll be doing with this one. I was so intrigued by that Wonder Bag that I decided to make one on my own. Very different design, but the same little styrofoam beads, and we do have a video on that one. And oh my gosh, those styrofoam beads, they have a life of their own. So many of them escaped while I was doing that, and we are still finding them sometimes around the house. They are just the sneaky little devils. This is what I made. It has 3 pieces, and I'm just going to use one, but these pockets are filled with those beads, and I made it so that I could fasten 3 together, and I baked bread in this, and it turned out great. It's a white crust, and so it looks crustless, but it's great bread, tastes just fine. And so we are going to take this pot and put it right down in here, cover the top with a dish towel, fold these over, and then we're going to put the lid on it. So that's how this one is going to work. So just as soon as these boil for 10 minutes, we will then get the beans in these pots and start our timing. The buzzer just rang, 10 minutes of boil time is up. I'm putting the 2nd quart in here so you can see how that is. Now I'm going to get some of this boiling water. Water needs to come up just above the beans, and I'm going to take the temperature, 191.8. At 11:05. 191.8, 11:05 start time. Okay, this one is ready to go. Next up is going to be our Wonder Bag. So the beans will be going right in this little pot right here. 2 quarts of beans. And now for the hot water. Temperature, 187.4. Lid in place. $11.09. All right, I'm going to move these over to the other counter. Second quart. Now hot water, boiling water. $180 even. Dish towel over the top, pillows forward. Lid in place at 11:12. Okay. Now I'm going to move this over the same place as the other one so it makes it a fair test. They're all on the same counter, the same bottom, the same part of the room, so the air temperature will be about the same. With the Zega, I'm watching it right now. It still has about that much more to go before it gets into the red. As soon as it gets into the red, I will take the data on the Zega and note the time when I take it off. And I will also put it over here so that it's all the same. So I will see you soon. All right, counting down. 4, 3, 2, 1, 3:05. Okay, this is what they look like. It's still fairly hot. 153.7. Okay, that's good. While these were processing, I put my hand on the outside and I could feel some heat escaping, so I was a little bit concerned. All right, so here we go on the Wonder Bag. 309. Oh, it's very warm in here. All right, this is what this one looks like. 140.4. And we'll set this one back over here. 312, and it's time to get the one out of the ice chest. That one didn't seem to have held the heat quite as much. Let's see how the beans are doing. 135.7. All right, on the Zega, notice that the dial, it started down here. We put it on the stove and it went into the red zone, and that's when I took it off at 11:12. It's now 3:12, and we still aren't back down to here, but since all the others were 4 hours, we're going to go ahead and do this one at 4 hours as well. So here we go. All right, this was 121.2. Before we do the data, there's something that I would like to show you. This is very, very important, and you might even want to write this down. The danger zone for food to be left out on the counter is between 40 degrees Fahrenheit or 4.5 degrees Celsius and 140 Fahrenheit and 60 Celsius. Now, if we are going to be doing off-grid slow cooking, it will be very important for us to be monitoring temperatures so the food stays in the safe zone. above 140 since we have it up way, way hot. And then we'll put it in these cookers, these slow cookers, and then leave it for several hours. We left these for 4 hours. So which of these were in the danger zone? Which did a good job? Let's look at our data. So this is the Zega. The beans are not anywhere near done. When I took it off the stove, or just before I took it off the stove, I took the temperature. It was 207. It ended up at 121. That's a loss of 86 degrees. Its final temperature was 121. And notice where that is. That is in the danger zone. So, sadly, I'm not impressed with this in terms of doing beans. It works great for oatmeal in the morning and other things, but I would not do stews or soups or beans in this one. It simply does not hold the heat as well as some of the others. Okay, this was the ice chest. Now the ice chest started out 180 degrees and went down to 135.7. That is a loss of 44 degrees. 44.3. So let's see if the beans are done. Not really. They are softer than in the Zega. But I will also have to cook these a little bit longer. Now, these were in the Wonder Bag. The Wonder Bag started at 187.4. It finished at 140.4. That's a loss of 47 degrees. So let's see if the beans are done enough that I can put them in the dehydrator. Yes, they are. They just mashed beautifully. Yes, these are done. Okay, good for Wonder Bag. All right, now let's do the Stanley. The Stanley started at 191. It went down to 153 for a loss of 38 degrees. So the Stanley lost the least amount of heat. So let's check to see if the beans are good to eat. I'm not good to eat, but good to, oh gosh, yes. These are nice and done. Yep, these can go right in the dehydrator or the freeze dryer right now. All right, so we have 4 different slow cooker methods right here. And 3 of them are commercial. One is the effort that I made to try to put it down inside a ice chest wrapped with those little styrofoam beads in the fabric. And this one did not do very well. This one failed completely. This one didn't do well. Now, this one, which is the Wonder Bag, did fantastic, and the Stanley did fantastic. So I'm glad to know this, because when, if and when the time ever comes that we have to do this on a more long-term basis, then these are the 2 that I will be turning to. Because after 4 hours, the food is still safe. It is above danger zone. Now let's see, did this one stay above the danger zone? No, it didn't. So these 2 went into the danger zone. Now they'll be okay, because I'm going to put them on the stove and boil them right now. Those bacteria don't start growing for several hours, so we're okay. So this is good information for me, and perhaps for you as well. Now I ended up with 8 quarts of cooked beans, and I started off with 6 pounds of the dried navy beans. And so that's what the yield is. 6 pounds equals 8 quarts, and you can calculate if you want smaller amounts. So this was a very informative competition experiment for me, and it gave me some really good information, and I hope it was useful for you as well. Thanks for being with us, and we will see you next time.